Well, Bootleg Sleepaway Camp is in full effect. It's 9:30 at night. We've got beers. We have a fake LED campfire type thing going on. We're telling ghost stories, which is really just listing off every receiver that Bill Belichick has ever drafted. So it's a good night to talk Patriots, EJ. Boo! Ooh, N'Keal Harry! Ooh! Aaron Dobson! Ooh!
Man. We're just short marshmallows. Aaron Dobson, wow.
I know.
That is a blast from the past.
One of many.
Yeah.
Anyway, Patriots fans already turned this episode off, so to all the Jets fans that stuck around, what's up?
These fucking guys. Click.
We have a lot of positive things to say about the Patriots today. There are plenty of issues with the team. We're not going to blow smoke up your ass. There are things that are wrong, but there's also a lot more things that are right than they're given credit for. For one, this defense is going to steal a lot of lunch money this year. They are fast, they are tough, they're aggressive, they're versatile. This will be a defensive-oriented ball club. Doesn't mean the offense is toothless, though. I think Mac Jones, with the return of actual competent offensive coaching, is also going to surprise some people. So there's a lot of good to go over, as well as a tiny little bit of bad as well, but mostly good. And I think that's our overall message today, is that the Patriots still are a good football team. So hopefully you stick with us during this entire episode. We have a lot to go over. And with that, Jay, Autumn, Anthony, roll the intro. Welcome back once again to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Coleman, here with my wonderful co-host, EJ Snyder, talking Patriots on this beautiful, what is it, Wednesday night? Yeah, it's Wednesday.
Summer evening. I'm just going to summer evening. Day ending
Days
in Y.
blend together at this point. But it is nighttime. It is summer. It is gorgeous. It's perfect weather. We're outdoors. No, it doesn't look like it, but we are outdoors. Talking Patriots. As we alluded to, very fascinating team. Very misunderstood team, but also, if you like a certain brand of football, very entertaining team.
Love to watch the defensive side of this ball club. I think I'm going to love to watch the offensive side more. It was a real struggle last year. You alluded to the fact that the offensive coaching was not competent, and that is the kindest thing that you can say about it. It was abysmal. It has changed. They have a return to not only competence, but I think real excellence. Bill O'Brien, still an excellent football coach. We got to see him. It was like the second day that after it was announced at Shrine.
I think it actually was the first day of practice, because I remember it got announced that Bill was coming to be the OC, because he was literally getting off the plane at the Shrine Bowl at the little private airport that's literally right across the street from the practice field. And all the media was out there. And if Bill O'Brien just showed up and started running receiver drills, everybody would be like, what's going on here?
Why is Bill here?
So literally that morning, right before practice, they let it slip to, it was like Rappaport or something like that. It's like, oh, by the way, O'Brien's our OC.
Bill's back.
And 20 minutes later, he was coaching Zay Flowers. And we're like, okay,
all right,
sure.
Look, Bill's here. And everybody's like, yeah, I know. He's going to be the OC. We were like, all right.
Yeah.
Good change overall for the Patriots. Last year, they struggled quite a bit on offense. We'll talk about that, but we don't expect it to continue this year. On defense, they were stellar last year. This is a really good team on defense that, if you enjoy defensive football, is a ton of fun to watch. Bunch of stars over there, bunch of ass kickers, guys that fly around to the ball. They've sort of always had that. And look, this defense is full of what I would call Patriot types. So that's not changed, but we'll talk a little bit more about the offensive side today, because we think the pieces are in place to have that not only return, but be sneaky and grab some wins.
Demario Douglas, wide receiver 6 on your depth chart, wide receiver 1 in your hearts, folks.
Circle him on your program. But we'll talk a little bit about 2022. We'll keep it brief because we realize it was painful overall record in 2022 for the Patriots. 8-9, third in the division, 4-4 at home, 4-5 on the road. Very identical records, home and away. last 5 games, 2-3, didn't exactly finish strong, but that was emblematic of their entire season.
Also emblematic of their entire season, as we talked about, strong defense. And we went through the Jets yesterday and we're like, oh my God, this defense was so good. And they were 16th in run defense EPA, and I think they were like 5th in pass defense EPA. As good as the Jets were on defense, the Patriots were significantly better. Talking 2 top 4 finishes in both run defense and pass defense EPA. This defense wasn't just great, they were unbelievable last year. And that was before they got the talent infusion in this year's draft.
Suffocating is a really good way to put it. This year on the podcast, we've got the effectiveness summary for every team. We go over rushing offense, passing offense, rush defense, pass defense, all basically graded or figured by EPA per play and their league rank. We talk about points scored and points allowed. So we'll start with the not good numbers. Rushing offense, 28th. Good players, couldn't get it done. Passing offense, not much better, 26th. And in the modern NFL, that's pretty much a death knell to your chances of winning football games. Flipping over to the defensive side that we alluded to at the top of the podcast, rush defense, 4th, pass defense, 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
This was a sneaky good team. People stopped watching this team because of the win total. What they missed was an absolutely obliterating defense for the entirety of the year. They played strong down the stretch. Points scored, 17th. Points allowed, 11th. Almost a top 10 scoring defense as well. So if you take those 6 numbers, add them up, and divide by 6, you get our bootleg power score. For the Patriots, it was 15. That places them in 9th overall. And I think if you look at most people and say, hey, do you think the Patriots were a top 10 football team last year? They'd say no, because look, bottom line, it's an offensive league. Points, sell tickets, and ad revenue. Patriots didn't score a lot of points. A lot of people didn't watch. They missed out on what was a really strong football team.
They're basically the bizarro Vikings.
Yes.
Because the Vikings, God, what were they, like 18th in power, in like raw power score, something like that. They were like below average in raw power score, but won 13 games because they had a horseshoe shoved up their ass the entire year. Or a 4-leaf clover, I don't know, whatever's lucky in Norse culture. Like, that was a ridiculously fortunate team. The Patriots were the exact opposite. And they were good. Like, the bones of the house are really good. And they got rid of the mold infestation that was the offensive coaching staff. But, again, the foundation and the bones are still there. Like, it's a great defense. On paper, their run game should have been better. If it was competently coordinated, it would have been better. Their quarterback in the past has played very well when, again, he was competently coordinated. I do think that there's just a lot there, and I think these EPA numbers illustrate that. Like, this was a top 10 football team that finished below 500 record. How often does that happen? Not very often. And, like, the fact that they were 28th in rushing offense EPA and 26th in passing offense EPA and still 17th in points scored? Like, can we talk about that? Like, what? And I know a lot of that was defensive points and special teams points, but still, like, that's legitimately impressive to be that bad and that competent.
That bad and that good at the same time.
Like, they were 10th in point differential. What the hell?
Yeah, and 9th overall in power score, ahead of Steelers, ahead of Packers, ahead of the Giants, ahead of the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd said, just within the AFC East, who had a better power score, the Patriots or the Dolphins, I'd say probably 90% of NFL fans would be like, oh, it's Dolphins for sure.
And
They're a
for
way better.
good reason.
They're a way better team. We're not talking about a couple of spots here. They're 5 spots ahead of their division rival in terms of, we really think power score is a good measure of just being a good football team. These are all the things you need to do to be good at football. The Patriots were really good at football in certain areas. I mean, excellent in certain areas and abysmal in others, and still averaged out to be a top 10 team overall.
Yeah,
that's wild.
It's just the actual winning part that was a little bit difficult.
They did struggle with that.
Looking at scheme stats that hopefully will give a little bit more context for what was going on, especially with the running in the pass game last year. Start with the run game. I remember this series, this time last year, we looked at the Cole Strange pick, we looked at the Pierre Strong pick, we look at how the offensive line was constructed and the backfield was constructed and what Mac Jones is good at. And, they drafted Tyquan Thornton to be the deep threat and yada, yada, yada. And we're like, oh my God, they're going to run a Kyle Shanahan offense. It's going to be outside zone heavy. It's going to be bootleg heavy. We're taking shots off play action. We're running outside zone over and over and over again because we got Ramondre and we got Cole Strange and he can reach block a freaking 5 technique by himself because he's a freak athlete. Let's go. Nope. 27th in outside zone.
We were about as accurate on that call for the Patriots as we were for the Colts overall record.
I think we assumed that Matt Patricia was going to call run plays that fit his personnel, and nope, he did not. He
Didn't
called
happen.
duo. He called power. He called the stereotypical Patriots gap scheme stuff that we're used to seeing, despite having an actual Ferrari of a left guard in Cole Strange. Please make it make sense. I don't. I really don't understand it. To just mash people up the middle over and over and over again. Like, if you're the Lions, you could do that. If you're the Ravens, you could do that because you're bigger and stronger than everybody. For me, Michael Onwenu notwithstanding, because he is like a block of a human being, but like most of the rest of the Patriots offensive line to me is built for outside zone. They're built for speed. They're built for finesse. They're built for locking on guys on the second level in space and just completely annihilating linebackers. That's what on paper I think they should be good at, and they just won't do it, or at least wouldn't do it under the previous staff. So hopefully Bill O'Brien recognizes that and says we're just going to use our athleticism to our advantage and call at least a little bit more outside zone. I would love that.
That's the point is I don't care. The current ranking for outside zone for last year, 27th in the league. I don't need it to be top 10. I don't need it to be top 12. Like, top 16 or 18 would be fine because it would be a legitimate threat. We know that they not only have the backs to do it, but certainly they have the offensive line to do it. And anybody that's going, quote unquote, to the book on the Patriots is going to pull up last year's footage and go, oh, look, they're going to run duo, they're going to run counter, they're going to run draw, they're going to run pin and pull. Sweet. And you hit them with a healthy dose of outside zone. It's going to be a really nice changeup, not only because they're not going to believe it for one, but you've got some folks that have, like Pierre Strong, that have real wheels and are excellent in that scheme. It's going to be efficient. You're going to get gains out of it as well. So I would love to see that balance.
Not to mention Mac Jones as a quarterback, really good at ball handling, really good, even when his back is to the defense in terms of flipping around quickly and getting his eyes down the field. Like, that's why Kyle Shanahan liked him as a prospect. Like, he specifically called that out of like, hey, from a mechanics perspective, he fits what we do.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are we not unleashing that? I don't know.
Well, I think we know why.
I know, yeah.
And those reasons are gone.
Passing offense overview, by the way. Play action percentage, 26th. Again, you have a quarterback who's really good off play action. Let's call it more than 19%, guys. Average time to throw, 14th fastest, which because they were so low in play action, kind of goes hand in hand. A lot of it was quick, over and over and over again. Air yards percentage was pretty much dead average at 52.9%. That was 17th highest in the league. Average depth of target, also pretty much dead average at 8.8 yards. Big time throw percentage. This is why I still believe in Mac Jones. When he's given an opportunity to throw down the field, he can actually capitalize. They were 9th in the NFL in big time throw percentage at 4.9%. That's good. That's like triple what the Giants were with Daniel Jones. So it's like when they actually go for it, they can hit it. They just don't go for it that often. And ultimately that translates to a yards per attempt at 19th in the NFL at 7.0, which is just not good enough. So hopefully, we take the chains off Mac a little bit, let him go.
Sprinkle in a little bit more play action, mix in a little bit more outside zone. That's going to lend itself to taking some of those deeper shots that he can hit. and did hit last year at a top 10 rate in the NFL. If you're just looking at rate, not pure numbers of, amount of them, for when he took those shots, he's pretty good at them. And you would figure, this is the theme for the episode, you would figure that the coaches would want to put the players in that position to succeed. Didn't last year. Think Bill will do more of that this year. That's Bill O'Brien, not Bill Belichick.
Especially, when they have a threat who we really did like coming out, Tyquan Thornton, who can get down the field in a hurry. Hey, you got the weapons. Well, at least a weapon. You can do it. Let's flip over to the more fun side of the ball. Defense. A lot of these coverage numbers are going to make complete sense if you watched literally any Patriots football at all last year. They were 20th in 0, but 3rd in cover 1. This team loves man coverage, always has, always will. They've always believed in get as good a secondary as you possibly can and just beat the absolute crap out of receivers. And especially if you can get yourself a Darrelle Revis or an Aqib Talib or a Stephon Gilmore or, dare I say, a Christian Gonzalez, if you can get one of those dudes, abuse it. Abuse it with man coverage. Abuse your advantage that you get by just being better. And I think they're well acquainted to do that again this year. A little bit of a change-up. They were 5th in cover 2 percentage at 18.9%, so they called a lot of cover 2, more so as a change-up. And I specifically watched this on tape last night because I knew we were doing this episode today. And I looked at all their cover 2 snaps, and a lot of it was presenting something else pre-snap and then showing cover 2 post-snap. Like they were actively trying to trap quarterbacks with a corner that, looks like he's going to beat you up and play man coverage, and all of a sudden he falls off and he's playing the flat and he's waiting for you to throw a stick route or something like that so he can come down and absolutely obliterate your number 2. Definitely more of a post-snap change-up than other teams where they are showing cover 2 pre-snap. They're in cover 2, and they're just going to run it over and over again because they can. 49ers. Patriots, very different. They would show something else, then play cover 2. And it was wildly effective. Cover 3 was also heavy in the rotation. They were 12th in cover 3, hence their run defense EPA being so good, because that was a very, very dominant early down call for them of either we're playing cover 1 or we're playing cover 3 based on formation. We're getting that extra body down in the box, and we're just going to out-gap you, and we're going to trust our guys to win, and usually they did. They were 26th, conversely, in quarters. They were 30th in quarter, half, so they were basically the anti-Jets, running virtually the opposite stuff of them, and they were 20th in 2-man. So overall, lots of man coverage, lots of cover 3, cover 2 is a change-up, and just trusting their dudes to be better.
The cover 2 changeup is really interesting, too, because they don't run it. You mentioned 49ers. They don't run it in the same way because they don't have the same athletes in the middle of the field to carry deep runners. So they lean into it in slightly different ways. It's like cover 2 for the front half.
I will contest that because they don't do it the same way, or rather, they do it the same way, but with a different position. Duggar. Yeah. Duggar is their Fred Warner.
Yeah, they basically rotate the safety down to be the pole runner, which, again, pulls cover 2 in a very interesting direction if you're familiar with Tampa 2. But, again, that late rotation keeps them – it basically gives them a leg up because the offense has to adjust basically at the snap of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So a super late rotation and using – what I'll call a speed-capable player that doesn't necessarily come from where you think he's coming from is just a little bit of a wrinkle. And, look, the Patriots are famous for a little bit of a wrinkles that can really throw a wrench in the works for an opposing offense.
Duggar is such a good player to me. And he's so fascinating to me because, when he's at his best, imagine Tyrann Mathieu that can take on a pulling guard. That's Kyle Duggar. He is, and I don't use this word lightly, unique in terms of profile. Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? Is he a nickel? Yeah. He's all those things. And they can do things on defense that other teams just can't because they have Kyle Duggar. And I really hope they keep him long term because he is so different than every other DB / linebacker in the NFL. And I think a big reason why they get away with what they play is because they have him.
I can't see them letting him go for any reason other than like overconfidence. And he would go to another team for 2 or 3 years. And then I think like Patrick Chung, he would return. He would be the prodigal son. He would be back. He would be like,
or
I was better here.
The other possibility, which is maybe even scarier, Marte Mapu's that good. If they let Kyle Duggar go without a fight, that means that Marte Mapu is like a superhuman.
It's possible, but my favorite combination of that is actually both of them staying.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
Because then you can just do, I don't want to say anything, but like this much short of literally anything. Because you have two players who are true hybrids that can run anywhere from middle linebacker in the box to deep center safety.
And be good at all of them.
That's what Mapu played in college. We'll talk about him more when we get to the draft. But his position in college was literally middle linebacker to center field safety, and it would swap per down, not per series. They would swap in, like, you're a linebacker this down, you're a safety this down, like, and they would just go back and forth. It was some of the most stunning college tape I've seen.
Looking at blitz percentages, this was, again, appropriately Patriots. Third and short, they were 11th in bringing pressure. Third and medium, they were 26th. That was actually a pretty heavy either cover two or like one rat down for them, so they weren't bringing extra bodies too much. Third and long, though, they cranked it back up. They were 11th in third and long pressure at 39.3%. A lot of man blitzes on those downs just because they could. And then third down stunt percentage overall. So the percentage of third downs in between the 20s, which I know is hyper-specific, the number of those downs that they ran stunts on was 38.3%, which was 21st. So sounds like a big number, but relative to the rest of the league, especially with some of these teams that were doing it like 60% of the time, it's actually not that crazy.
No, and one of the things that stands out to me for both the coverages and the blitz percentages, and we talked a little bit about it with Kyle Duggar, is just how heavy all the guys on the Patriots play. And I don't mean like heavy they can't run. I mean like heavy-handed, high impact. You talked about Duggar's ability to absolutely stone a guard one-on-one in space, and does it over and over again. And it's almost that Marshawn Lynch quality of I'm made out of iron and I hit you, and even though it looks like I should go backwards, you go backwards because I just have this strangely dense core. And their linemen play like that. Duggar plays like that.
Barmore.
They're all just beaters.
Juwan Bentley is like an actual human Coke machine.
Yeah, he's literally like a little anvil in the middle, and they love him. Just resign him for big money.
Yeah.
Because again, they just want dudes who will thump at every position. They want those heavy press man corners. They want defensive linemen who are just gonna slug it out the entire game, and they're literally gonna beat you up. Like Belichick loves that approach. He loves that. Man up and whip the guy across from you first. We'll do the rest of it later.
Looking at the power structure overall, this has always been a fun one to attempt to, keyword attempt, to parse out. We're going on how many years in a row of us not being entirely sure who the DC is between Steve Belichick and Gerard Mayo. My money's on Gerard Mayo, but there's still... Steve is still listed as like co-DC, at least on Our Lads. Not that Our Lads is like the most reliable source, but even there, like, I don't know.
If they could put a question mark on there like we did, they would. We went full archaeologist on this last year. We got to this point last year, and I put this agenda in front of you, and I was like, I don't know, man. Do you know? You were like, I don't know either. So we both asked Patriot sources we knew, multiple Patriot sources we knew. And they were like, I'm not sure either. And these were guys that are at practice. These are beat reporters that are there every day. And they were like, well, I think this guy might be doing this part. And I think this guy. And I was like, so you don't know. And they're like, nobody really knows. And I was like, nobody? And they were like, no, not really.
All I've heard is that Mayo's being groomed to be the successor, the heir, if you will, which to me implies he's DC. But at the same time, Steve is heavily involved. And so maybe it's not really a DC and position coach thing. Maybe there are co-DCs, but if there had to be an assistant head coach that wasn't Joe Judge, because Joe Judge is assistant head coach, but really Gerard Mayo's being groomed to take, I don't know.
So you got it. It's as clear as mud, the whole thing, top to bottom. Director of player personnel, because they don't have a GM title, is Matt Groh. So he helps with that process. The head coach and de facto GM, Bill Belichick, 48th season as an NFL coach. Let that sink in. Almost 5 decades as an NFL coach. There's not a lot of guys. There's a handful of guys that have coached 40 or 50 years total, and that's combining high school, college, pros. 48 seasons in the NFL. Not sure we're going to see that anytime soon again. There's a few guys out there that approach that, but very, very few, and with good reason. Belichick, one of the best coaches ever in the NFL. The assistant head coach, strangely enough, is Joe Judge. Okay.
I mean, it seems like what the Patriots are telling us, because remember when there was the questions this time last year of like, who's the OC? Is it Joe Judge? Is it Matt Patricia?
Yep.
And I think the Patriots are telling us through these actions of Patricia was the problem, Joe Judge was fine. Take that as you will. I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to know what the hell was really going on, but they are certainly telling us through this that they believe Patricia was the issue and not Judge.
And strangely enough, this is historically something that happens with New England coaches. They reach a high level of success in the New England organization. They go elsewhere. They largely bomb out, and then they return to New England.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill takes them back happily, and suddenly they're good again.
Yep.
And it's happened over and over and over and over again. And so Joe Judge goes to the Giants. Terrible tenure with the Giants. Any Giants fan will tell you. Happy to see him go. Nice guy, but wasn't working out. Goes back and is now the assistant head coach. Like, just amazingly.
Well, look at O'Brien. Went to Houston. Was a good head coach for multiple years. And then, got GM powers. Won that battle for GM powers because he was trying his hand at being Bill 2.0.
Yep.
And that's when he got into trouble and things fell apart. With no small hand in it from Jack Easterby as well, who did not help things at all.
Nope.
But still, like the Bill O'Brien tenure, if he just stayed as head coach, he might still be there.
Agreed.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But he just bit off a little bit more than he could chew. Ended up not working out in Houston because of that. Went to the Nick Saban Rehabilitation Center for Coaches. Put together some absolutely ridiculous offenses with Bryce Young. Bada bing, bada boom, back in New England. OC. Probably be a head coach again in a few years.
And good again. So offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, Bill O'Brien. He has both titles. Defensive coordinator, we're not even going to take a swing this year. We're just going to say we don't know.
I think it's Mayo.
Could be Mayo. There's 2 Belichicks on staff. Like, just mix and stir. They're really good. However it works, this isn't an organization that's super transparent, and it doesn't need to be. We talked about it at the top. This defense was excellent. Basically a top 5 in the NFL defense overall. I don't care if they tell us who runs it or not. I just want to watch it.
Do they even have a special teams coordinator listed?
I didn't see one.
Why do they do this to us? Like, somebody's running it.
I think Bill just snickers. It's the same thing he's done with injury designations, right? Famously, like, I don't have to tell you. And they're like, well, you kind of do by rules. And he's like, well, I will when I have to.
I thought it was Cam Acord. Maybe it's not.
Could be. On Our Lads, I think it is. Let's look it up. Cam Acord is now listed as the special teams coordinator. Experience 6 years.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Well, it's official. It's on their website, so we'll take it now. But there was nothing when I looked it up, which didn't surprise me in the least, which is weird. 31 other teams? Like, what do you mean they don't have a special teams coordinator? I get to the Patriots, and I'm like, oh, yeah, of course.
The assistant coaches underneath Judge and O'Brien and Mayo / Belichick and other Belichick and Acorn.
You got to have fun with it. Otherwise, it'll drive you crazy.
Assistant coaches, Troy Brown, wide receiver and kick returners coach, is, he's been there since 2019, spent his entire 15-year career as a Patriot, one of the most beloved Patriot players of all time. But the one that I want to bring up the most, because we got to watch him up close and personal at Shrine Bowl, go to work with the running backs, that's Vinny Sunseri. They got something there with Coach Sunseri. Like, he's legitimately a great coach. And his energy was infectious. Watching him like coach up young guys in terms of how to handle protections, proper footwork, angles of attack, pacing, like everything that a running back has to know. Even though he didn't play running back, I think he was a safety, I think. But his approach to teaching was noticeably refreshing. Watching him work with these young guys and understanding the generation gap in terms of like how young guys learn, very concise, very clear, short bursts.
Yes.
We talked about teaching yesterday in the Jets episode and how types of teaching are important. He clearly understands how to teach young players and get his message across effectively without yelling and screaming and doing all the stereotypical football coach shit. I think he's a really good coach, and I was specifically locked in on him and his position group for an entire day of practice, and I got so much joy watching him do what he does.
The reason we do this segment, one of the many reasons we do this segment, is to identify coaches for all of you that are on the rise. And Vinny Sunseri is on I don't want to say meteoric rise, but a heavy and short rise. He is going to be not only a position coach, he's most likely going to be a coordinator fairly soon. And I would guess one of the younger guys in a head coaching rotation, again, if things break his way, after not too long. We're going to talk about 3 years from now, 5 years from now, he's going to be getting those interviews as a head coach in the NFL. Again, there's only 32 of those spots, but we talk about it with quarterbacks all the time, the it factor. Mm-hmm. He has it as a coach, and they probably saw that really early on. Again, this is a continuation of the mind meld between the Alabama staff and the New England staff. Very famously, Bill Belichick and Nick Saban spend a lot of time together in the offseason. They like to sort of trade notes. They also like to trade coaches and players. Sunseri played at Alabama, then he was a GA for 1 year with Saban, got the call up to New England after one season in Alabama. He's been there 5 years already, which seems crazy because it feels like he just came out, a few years ago.
Yeah.
Oops, 5. And like you said, has a manner when you watch him on the field. And, coaching, when it really boils down to it, is teaching. That's what coaching is. And he's an excellent teacher. We've seen really good results out of his position group already in New England. I think that's going to continue. If we get a run game coordinator title in New England, it's probably going to be Vinny Sunseri. And if Bill O'Brien, like you said, gets another shot, it's very possible that Vinny Sunseri could be the OC for the Patriots at an extremely young age.
All right, so we've gone over the coaches. We've gone over a couple personnel additions, which we'll get to even more after this. We've gone over the schematic information, both what they did last year and what we think they hopefully, please God, will do this year. With all that context, looking at where the valuations are with this Patriots offense, pretty much the only player that the public at large seems to believe in right now is Ramondre Stevenson, and for good reason. He's a great running back. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the most talented Patriots backs that we've seen in the last 10, 15 years or so, because he's one of the few guys that I think can actually legitimately do it all. He is exceptional, and I'm happy that he's there for Mac Jones to lean on, because he's going to be a big, big, big piece of that offense again this year. And everybody knows it. He's going as RB9 right now, so you're not getting any discounts on Ramondre Stevenson. After Ramondre, pretty much everything has very depressed value. Like Mac Jones himself is going as QB 31. So he's sitting there as a bench player. Somebody who's probably not going till like the last round. Let's see, what's his overall ADP? 209.2. So yeah, he's going like the last few rounds on Underdog as just like a flyer.
Yeah.
Because people just don't believe in this Patriots passing game. They should believe in it more than they do, but I'm telling you what the ADP is. Like you're getting him at the very, very end of these drafts. Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver, 78. Juju Smith-Schuster, wide receiver, 55. Devontae Parker, wide receiver, 80. Looking at the tight ends, Mike Gesicki. We like Mike Gesicki. We think Mike Gesicki's really talented. Good red zone target. Jump ball specialist. Really good over the middle. Tight end, 23. So if you think that the Patriots passing game is worth a single shit at all, you're going to get value. Because everybody is going significantly later just because they have the little NE next to their name on the depth chart. If there was ever a team that you could get the QB1, the wide receiver 1, and the wide receiver 2, and the TE1 at massive discounts, the Patriots are the team to do it. So if you feel like with everything we've told you so far that there's value to be had, and there is, please go on Underdog Fantasy right now. Use promo code BOOTLEG. They'll match your deposit up to $100. Take advantage of that. Draft these guys super late because you're getting them for free, and somebody's catching the ball in New England.
The stink of last year is lingering hard, and it has people spooked. They were like, did you see the mess that passing offense was? I'm not investing in that, especially in the pass catchers. Wide receivers, tight ends, doesn't matter. Mac Jones, he's not going to give you a lot of running yards. So if his passing yards are also depressed or continue to be depressed, we don't necessarily think they will. We think Bill O'Brien's going to resurrect those to a point. But look, if you're a Patriots homer and you want to draft the entire Patriots roster, you're going to be able to. You're not going to have to fight anybody for them.
You know what the season-long pick'ems totals for Mac are, by the way?
I don't.
3,300 passing yards for the season.
Yeah.
You can go higher or lower on that. I would probably go higher because even if I don't think he's going to hit 4,000, I think he's going to hit more than 3,300.
It feels close to me. Like I think he might hit like 35, and that would be
I go 35.
Season.
Yeah.
Right, but that's ticklish because if he misses a couple games, twists an ankle, he's not going to hit it. So it's a pretty close line for me. It's not one of those that we're like, what?
The 19.5 touchdowns on the season, I can kind of understand that just because I think Ramondre is going to get like everything in the low red zone. So like I get that. But 12 and a half interceptions for what, at least my familiarity with how Bill O'Brien calls the offense, he doesn't typically expose his quarterback to 12 and a half interceptions. So that seems a little high for me. I'd probably go lower on that.
Feels like last year carrying over again because Mac got frustrated and he started chucking it up because he really sort of disagreed with the coaches. Again, I don't think that's going to continue. So that one, I would jump on the under.
Because O'Brien, what he does really well is gives his quarterback answers to get out of trouble. He doesn't just call rigid concepts and say, read it out and throw it, because that's how young quarterbacks get into trouble and throw bad picks. He will give Mac answers at the line of scrimmage of like, hey, if you get a look that you don't like, go into this. Like, here's how you get in and out of a play where you can get more favorable leverage or a more favorable matchup. Like, here's your get out of jail concepts. They always have, like every single week they go into a game with like 5 or 6 one-word calls that if we really got to hit the panic button, we can say this one word and everybody on the offense knows what we're doing. And we've repped it 1,000 times, so we know every single permutation of it from every single formation, every single personnel grouping. And like that's how he keeps his quarterbacks out of trouble, is he gives them answers at the line of scrimmage. So 12 and a half interceptions is just, it's too high. I'd probably go lower on that. Ramondre, we talk so much about Ramondre being great. His season-long rushing yards total that you can go higher or lower on is 925. For how much he's going to get fed the ball? A little low.
I'd say, again, it's a little low. It feels I would say commensurate to that 3,300 number for Mac. It's a little low, but again, if he gets dinged up, and look, running backs in the NFL get dinged up. Is he capable of rushing for more than 1,000 yards? Of course. Like, he's got some of the sweetest feet in the entire league, I'm telling you folks. Like, Ramondre Stevenson, everybody looks at his size, and they've said this since he was drafted. Oh, he's a banger. Nope, he's not. He's a dancer. He has excellent feet. Like, if you love watching running back play, and I do, if you follow my content, you know that I am a running back stan. Like, Ramondre was like, ooh, this guy isn't what he looks like, and he's better than people think he is. And he's continued to play that out in the pros. So can he go over 1,000? Absolutely. Are there some factors that, especially with the Patriots run game, they tend to mix it up. They don't necessarily bell cow it. There's always vulture TDs in the Patriots run game, especially in the low red zone. And, might be him, but might not be him because, again, he's not necessarily a great banger.
What's your cutoff for rushing touchdowns where you won't go higher anymore?
For Ramondre?
Yeah.
Where I wouldn't go higher. 10?
He's at 6. You're telling me Ramondre Stevenson isn't going to get more than 6 touchdowns the entire year?
I'm not telling
Injury
you that. I'm not
notwithstanding.
I think he'll get more than that. Even if he
what
gets,
are we doing?
Right. Even if he gets a bunch stolen from him by other backs. And, the Patriots are really either good at this from a football sense or bad at this from a fantasy sense. Like, they will grab random player from 3 spots down the depth chart and go, guess what? You get all the carries from 3 yards and in. And everybody's like, what are you doing?
Oh, it's Colts week. Let's have Jonas Gray get 4 touchdowns because Brett has every other Patriots running back on his roster, and we want to screw specifically him. I will never forgive them for that, by the way.
No, and they're going to do it again. I mean, J.J. Taylor is currently 5th on the depth chart. Love J.J. Taylor. Think he's a really good back. Don't necessarily think he's the low red zone back, but would it surprise me? QB4 right now is Malik Cunningham.
Oh, that's where Malik Cunningham ended up.
Right, and they've worked him a little bit at wide receiver, which I'm very opposed to just saying, oh, we don't understand him, make him a wide receiver. In Malik's case, I actually think that might be a career extending move for him. And he could play a little bit of running back on the old tap pass. Think a lot about the Chiefs offense in the low red zone, all the jet sweeps, tap pass stuff they do. Like, Malik would be an excellent recipient for that. And I can totally see Belichick going on the complete heel turn and being like, guess what? Everything inside the 5, we're giving to Malik Cunningham out wide.
Julian Edelman 2.0.
Yeah. And it's just the Patriots are very interesting that way. So I can see that total being a little bit low. Is it 6 low? I don't think so.
Overall, if you're a Patriots fan and you're more optimistic about their offensive potential, like we are, again, check it out on Underdog Fantasy. Just flip through their NFL season-long pick'em totals because a lot of them are very generous, like we brought up, and barring injury, seem extremely doable. So just kind of flip through those, and it's not just the Patriots; it's every single team has a few numbers where we're like, okay, sure, fine. Calvin Ridley, cough, cough.
And if you want to get there super fast, just scan the QR code on the screen.
I keep forgetting they made that for us.
We got a QR code now. It's so cool. All you have to do is hold your phone up to your monitor if you're watching on TV or on a PC. It's going to take you right to the Underdog Fantasy page if you already have it installed. If you don't, it'll take you to the App Store so you can download the app and then start scoring on all these season-long numbers that we think are a bit goofy.
Or if you're on mobile, again, the link is in the description below, and you can just use promo code Bootleg. But either way, however you want to do it, thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this entire series and sponsoring the entire show for 2 years and helping us grow like we've been growing. We're up like 35% growth in a month and a half. Like
Since the start of the summer, yep.
This has been nuts. Like this whole
on
this whole
more
ride.
levels than one.
Like it's been hard to make this series, not gonna lie. As a quick aside, it's been very hard to make this. But it's been so worth it. Yep. I love how it's come out.
This is our best life. Like
yeah.
This content, And somebody asked me the other day, because we were talking about the difficulty of making it, and they said, do you think it's worth it? I said, absolutely. The results from all of you have been amazing. The growth of the channel has reflected that. But more so than that, I said, this feels like the content we should be making. Like, this content feels to me and to us more like bootleg content than any of the other content we've made. And we love that content, but this feels like sort of a culmination. This feels like mountaintop content for us.
I think it's the best thing we've ever made.
Yep.
And I think it's going to springboard the channel, springboard the brand. And I think the growth reflects how much people have enjoyed it. And so I think they're going to keep coming back as long as we keep making shit like this. And hopefully, again, with the help of everybody watching this and our brand partners and everything, we can just keep making stuff like this because it's pretty damn fun.
It's cool.
And it's cool. It's cool. All right. Sappiness out of the way.
Indeed. Not a dry eye in the house.
Let's talk about free agency. It was fine for me. I'm trying to be positive, EJ. It was okay.
It's fine. Speaking of that low red zone hammer, Damian Harris, this one hurts a little bit, not only because he is not a Patriot anymore, but because he is going to be scoring against the Patriots this year. He is a Buffalo Bill now, and they're going to feel that one a little bit. The Bills needed that. They tried to draft it with Zach Moss. That didn't work out. Damian Harris, a proven commodity in that role. Buffalo needed it. They get him. It's addition by subtraction or addition by addition, both ways. You're hurting your rival. So that one I think they're going to feel a little bit. Isaiah Wynn, the right tackle, is now with the Dolphins. Speaking of, again, staying within the division. Jonnu Smith moves on to the Falcons. He played about 40% of their snaps. Jacoby Myers signs a big deal with the Raiders to go out and play with Josh McDaniels. 65.6% of their snaps, and really was a focus of their passing game. They'll have to replace his production, not only his snaps, but his production in the offense. I think Bill O'Brien can do it, but they're going to have to find that guy because say what you want about Jacoby Myers, he was pretty darn reliable in that offense.
It was not lost on me, though. It feels so purposeful how, Jacoby Myers signed a $16 million deal in Vegas total. Juju Smith-Schuster, like a day later, signed a $16 million deal in New England. That was interesting. Felt like a message a little bit.
Fascinating. Oh, yeah? We like the same thing, but different.
And I'll be honest, I prefer Jacoby Myers. Like, if you
Straight
had
up?
if you had to give me a choice, who do you want on third down, Jacoby Myers or Juju Smith-Schuster? I'd probably go Jacoby Myers. So it's a win for the Raiders there. Good old Josh McD got himself a nice little number 2 there for Devontae. But I sure would love to know the story behind that little contract switcheroo.
Swap. Yeah, and Nelson Aguilar moves to the Ravens. Again, he was 45% of their snaps. The receiving corps is going to look different, not only in the personnel, but also, we hope, in the routes they're running. So, be a lot of fun, just from a sort of fascination sense to see what the Patriots pass game really becomes halfway through the season. We know what Bill O'Brien likes to run, but again, different cast of characters, a lot of change. At the receiver positions and at the tight end position, he's talked about using dual tight ends, a la the old Patriots dual tight end model. So it'll be fascinating to see sort of how it shakes out in the numbers over, say, the first half of the season and what it really is versus all the preseason talk about what they want it to be.
In terms of retentions or extensions, Miles Bryant, the corner for them, $2.6 million. Jonathan Jones as well, $9.5 million for another corner. 80% of their snaps, also held up well. You don't play that much man coverage without having guys that can hold up. And $9.5 million for a 30-year-old corner seems fair. He's getting towards the end of the lifespan for a DB, but he's still effective. So throw him $9.5 million. Jalen Mills, another corner, getting up there a little bit. He's 29, about to turn 30. $2.5 million for him. Jabril Peppers, already 28. God, I remember when he was coming out of high school. $4.5 million for him as another hybrid safety nickel linebacker type because they can't get enough of those. Juwan Bentley, the human coke machine, $6.7 million. pretty nice deal for what he does for them, which is kick ass, chew gum, and stop the run. Devontae Parker, $5.4 million. That's fine, I guess, for the current receiver market. Okay.
That's fine, I guess. Wow. The most stunning endorsement we've rolled out in this entire hour.
I'm just saying, like, Devontae Parker, in terms of ratio of, like, badass highlights to production, is the weirdest ratio in the league. Because he can do some truly awe-inspiring stuff.
Yeah.
Once every 6 weeks. And then the rest, you're kind of like, hey, bud, where you at?
Consistency is a thing, and I had much higher hopes for him coming out because you saw the heights and you said, hey, if he can hit these consistently, what we're going to get is, oh my God. And we've gotten sort of the same thing.
One last retention here. Patron Saint of Bootleg, baby. Carl Davis, still in the league. Let's go.
Had to highlight him. For those of you that don't know, the week we met, Senior Bowl 2020, and we were talking football. It was like Wednesday morning, and we were getting a bagel, and we went on a 20-minute soapbox tirade about how we both appreciated Carl Davis. And at the end of that, honestly, we looked at each other and went, are we the only two people that could have had this conversation? And it was like, yeah, probably. And you got Bootleg out of it. So there you go.
That was a good plate of barbecue. We got to go back there.
Absolutely.
But that requires going to Mobile, Alabama in January, and I'm not sure I own enough cold weather clothing for that. So
you don't, as a Californian.
People don't realize like how freaking cold Alabama is in the winter. Like unreasonably cold.
I grew up in upstate New York, and we had, when I grew up, we had somewhere minimum 4 to 6 inches of snow, minimum for 5.5 months. Like, it never broke, right? It's a little different these days. But at that time, it was plenty bitter cold. We had full weeks of single digits, whiteouts, the whole bit. My buddy that I grew up with in that town said the coldest he's ever been in winter is deer hunting in Alabama in January.
It gets to your bones, man.
Yeah.
And not to mention in Mobile specifically, it's on the water.
Yep. Breeze picks up and whee!
That practice, it was the year that Justin Herbert was coming out, and Jalen Hurts was also there, and Jordan Love was there. It was a Tuesday, and it was wet and windy, and it just felt like the ocean was slamming into your face all practice long. That was the most uncomfortable that I've been in a while. And like, I truly did not understand coastal winter until that day.
He says sitting like 2 miles from the Puget Sound. But shout out to Bootleg OG, Danny Kelly. We went out and got a very warm plate of Mexican food after that. And
Alabama Mexican.
But sat around, like, just had our hands over the hot dishes, trying to feel our fingers again. That was a good time. Good dinner.
Remember the day after that? This was like before all the all the processes were established for rain delays and stuff at Senior Bowl, and they had to move practice because of like lightning or something like that to the USA campus. And at that point, like, no media was allowed in. It was like literally just NFL Network and coaching staffs and players. And so it's like driving rain, and EJ and I sneak up to the hillside on the other side of campus, just holding like a pair of binoculars, watching like a sliver of red zone drills like fucking nerds we are.
It was our Bill Murray and Caddyshack moment trying to catch the Gophers.
It was a good week, man. I miss it. We got to go back there.
Yep.
Anyway, third-party additions. Outside additions. Riley Reif at $5 million to be presumably their starting right tackle. Juju Smith-Schuster, like we mentioned, $8.5 million cap hit this year, $16 million deal over 2 years. Brought him in from the Chiefs to be, I guess, another slot receiver because they can't get enough of those. And then Mike Gesicki, probably the most impactful third-party free agent they brought in at only $4.5 million for what he brings to the table. I thought was a really, really good signing. I think at minimum, just the red zone impact he can have is going to be well worth that dollar amount.
I think the wonder twin powers between Bill O'Brien and Mike Gesicki are what's important here. If they'd brought him in last year with the offensive coaches they had, I would have been like, it's wasted money. They don't know how to use him, and they're probably not going to employ him correctly. With Bill O'Brien and really having 2 tight ends that he can rotate somewhat interchangeably in certain roles, I think that adds a really fun wrinkle to the offense. And we talked about the wrinkles they like to throw on defense. That could be a really fun wrinkle on offense.
Shifting gears now to their draft class, their very large draft class. Let's see, how many is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 picks.
I feel like this is that medieval motion picture where the town crier comes up and drops the scroll and it bounces down the stairs because it's like 20 feet long.
It's a CVS receipt of a draft list. That's right. For damn sure. But some real good gems here. Obviously at the top, like their first 4 picks, well, 3 picks mostly, I'm absolutely obsessed with. They could have just ended right there, and I would have considered that a successful draft. But to also get like Antonio Maffi in round 5, you're getting Demario Douglas in round 6, who I love. I love Demario Douglas so much. Even down to like Isaiah Bolden in round 7. They actually got value all the way through the draft. And this is the first time in a while that I remember the Patriots not just having a couple good picks I like, but like 5 or 6 picks that I really, really, truly love.
I'm with you. There's 6 picks in here that I am wild about, and they weren't all up at the top. 2 are at the top, 2 are in the middle, 2 are a little bit farther down, and 13 overall. They replaced both specialists. They got a kicker and a punter in that 13. Certainly took some wild card shots later on down on athletes at the corner position. But let's start right up at the top. There was a lot of early conversation about which way they would go in terms of position, and if they went that way at the position, who was the player. Ends up round 1, pick 17, Christian Gonzalez, the extremely talented corner out of Oregon, who is just starting to put it all together. Dad was a professional basketball player. His sister's a super high-level athlete, comes from a whole family of very high-level athletes, and moves like one, can just do things on the football field athletically that are rare at the cornerback position. Still getting his feet under him as a corner and is already really good, but I don't feel at all like he's tapped out in terms of his ceiling. I feel he's still got a lot of growing to do in the position, and that's an exciting combination.
And let's be honest, they weren't supposed to get him. Like, there was no scenario that we were looking at where Christian Gonzalez was a Patriot. I don't think he ever even fell to their original pick at 14 in any mock drafts. Like, he was always gone in the top 10. And for him to not only go at 17, but to go behind Emmanuel Forbes, who got taken 16, same position, very wrong player, I was stunned, I was flabbergasted, and it was just one of those... Of course he goes to the Patriots. Round 2, pick 46, edge Keon White from Georgia Tech. Physical specimen that I think this is a great landing spot for. So he's another one of the 6 that I'm really excited about because of where he landed and because the Patriots are really good at using dudes who have his sort of physical profile, which is ridiculous athletically. And they don't so much go, oh, well, is he an edge or is he a defensive end? They'll move him around and find really good spots, put him in really good spots to make plays. I feel better about his pro prospects as a Patriot than I would for almost any other team. It's one of those players that I really liked, but I was like, where does he fit in the league? Not just like position, but team. Like, who's going to be able to use him? He ends up going to New England, and I'm like, solid. Well, he's another one of these hybrid 3 technique, 4 eyes, 5 technique edges. The answer is yes for what he plays. But he's another one of these Patriots type defensive linemen where we can line him up anywhere. 4-point stance, 3-point stance, 2-point stance, anywhere from a guard on out. Mm-hmm. And he can do things athletically that most defensive linemen just can't do. Like there was a rep that Taylor Kyles, if you're not familiar with Taylor Kyles, by the way, you should be if you're a Patriots fan. He writes for CLNS, and he's like the Patriots beat writer for CLNS. Newly minted, just got out there this summer. But he watches a lot of tape and he knows everything about the Patriots. So if you want any sort of Patriots coverage day by day, go follow Taylor Kyles. But after he got drafted, he posted this rep from Keon White where he's playing 5 technique. And he has to carry a wheel route down the boundary on like a peel alert. And he did it. As a 5 technique, he's carrying wheel routes.
Athletically, like Georgia Tech has a long history of turning out some wild athletes at all positions, especially wide receiver.
Yep.
And some of these guys that play edge 5, they've had some linebackers that have been nuts. Keon White just continues that tradition of like ramble and wreck guys that are nuts athletically. And I don't think there's a better use for that in the NFL than landing with a team like the Patriots that isn't so bound to position-specific role. You got to do this. You can only do this. We're not going to have you do this. They're going to move him around. He's going to have impact because he's an impactful athlete.
Yep.
Round 3, pick 76. We've talked about him a couple times. They list him as a safety, call him a linebacker, call him whatever you want. Marte Mapu, Sacramento State, had a great Senior Bowl. Was a guy that we got his tape later in the process, so I went back to him later in the process because I could watch him. And, again, was fascinated with his usage there and, again, thought, this is Duggar 2.0. Like, I don't think he's as good physically, but he is as versatile, and he could grow into that role. And so few players can absolutely see what we call the path of playing time. Round 4, pick 107, center Jake Andrews from Troy. I'm giving him a pass. The Patriots can pick and develop offensive linemen. So whether or not I think this was a great pick or a poor one, I am not going to speak ill of it because I will be wrong.
I love how we're just acknowledging that you know what? Small school offensive linemen, we'll give that one to you, Bill. Fine.
Their hit rate up and down the board for linemen in general is really ridiculous. Obviously, during all the Dante Scarnecchia years, like they pretty much couldn't miss. But they've continued that. And their 3rd pick in round 4, only 5 picks later at 117, another one of the 6 I really like. They have him listed as offensive guard here, but he's been playing offensive tackle for the last couple of days.
Oh, that I
didn't
see.
Yeah, just happened within like the last 48 hours. City Show from Eastern Michigan. He's a dude.
Yeah.
He is a wrecker. His torque, grip strength, forearm power, unreal. He messed some guys up on tape. Complete ass kicker. Love this pick. Round 5, pick 144. Guy we got to sit down with at the Shrine Bowl. Offensive guard Antonio Mafi from UCLA. Love this player.
Also, a former defensive lineman.
Yes.
Coached by friend of the show, Coach Vass. If you guys know Coach Vass,
yep.
Which you should, because he's one of the most brilliant football media people anywhere. And pretty much every single football media person goes to Vass with questions on stuff because he knows everything. But yeah, he played in high school under Coach Vass. And if you can believe it, well, you can because it's maniacal. When he was like 320 as a senior in high school, he put him at 6 technique over a tight end. And, high school tight ends are like 185 pounds. And he just said, Antonio, go kill that dude. And he did every snap.
Bury him. Vicious, but we appreciate it, Vass. It's the right kind of vicious. Round 6, pick 187. Keyshawn Butte, wide receiver from LSU. Athletically, very, very talented. Lots of questions off the field. Has not exactly lit up Patriots camp.
He had a couple bounce back days the last couple days, but largely it's been whelming.
Yes,
to say the least.
Round 6, it's a wild card pick. If he works out, they look brilliant. If not, it's pick 187 overall. Probably okay with it. Another pick in round 6, 192. This is where they get the punter, Bryce Berringer from Michigan State. Another pick in round 6. Wait, there's one more after this, but this one's the one I really like. 210, wide receiver Demario Douglas from Liberty. Sat down and talked to him. He had a Shrine Bowl week that was, I think, like reminiscent of Kyle Phillips. It was not at the same level. Mm-hmm. He didn't kill everybody, but every time you turn around, he was getting separation, catching, keeping his feet in bounds. He just nothing looked too big for him. He was a little bit quieter about it than Kyle. He wasn't cooking guys all the time, but he seemed like he was always open, always catching the ball. He's very quiet when you talk to him, very humble, very matter of fact. And both of us kind of looked at each other and went, yeah, it's just a really good receiver. Like, there wasn't anything that stuck out in terms of like, oh, he's really tall or, oh, he's super fast. He's quick, but we're just like, that guy just knows how to play receiver.
And he was one of the first guys that I actively saw because he was under O'Brien. O'Brien was coaching the receivers for the Patriots coaching staff at Shrine Bowl. And DeMario was one of the first guys that I saw Bill actively pull aside and coach one-on-one. And that's where I was kind of like, interesting.
Yeah.
If they don't get Zay, and everybody knew they were obsessed with Zay. Like, that was no secret. When I was like, if they don't get Zay, there's something there. Like, Bill seems to really like this kid. Lo and behold, he's there in the 6th round. And Bill said, give me DeMario Douglas.
And he's been lighting up camp every day, making at least a couple of catches that get reported by Patriots beat writers. Last pick in round 6, I promise, 214, cornerback Amir Speed from Michigan State. So they had a pretty Michigan-heavy draft overall for the Patriots. And then round 7, pick 245, cornerback Isaiah Bolden from Jacksonville State.
Freak athlete. He's 6'2", 200 pounds, 4.3 speed, 38-inch vert, 33-inch arms, or at least just under 33-inch arms. That's a Patriots corner if I've ever seen one.
And it's the lottery pick that you take in the 7th round. Big, long, fast, we'll work it out.
Yeah.
Like, come play for us.
Turns like a battleship in a glacier, but boy, he's got everything else. Beyond Bolden and Douglas and Mafi and all the other actual draft picks, all 12 of them, looking at their UDFA haul, not a super big one, but they got a couple guys that maybe possibly have a chance to make the roster. You brought up Malik Cunningham. I didn't even realize that they had Malik Cunningham, but we got to mention him just because I think he's a talented kid. Whether it's at quarterback or wide receiver, we'll see. But wouldn't be shocked if he beat out Trace McSorley for QB3. Also wouldn't be shocked if he beat out some people for like wide receiver 6 because athletically he is that talented. So I'm going to keep an eye on that one for sure. And then Justice Tavai, is he related to Jelani?
I don't know if he is, but he's a player that I liked pre-draft. And the really interesting thing about Tavai is he was signed after minicamp. So he was a minicamp invite only. He was not signed as a priority UDFA. And very few of these guys around the league make this transition. You basically get invited for what is a 2-day tryout. It's a weekend camp. And there can be anywhere 8, 10, some teams like the Colts will bring in 13, 15 mini camp tryouts. They just want to get their hands on guys, maybe look at some medical stuff, see how they move. And it's very cursory. They're going through really basic drills. They're doing basic installs. And it's difficult to show out enough over a 2-practice period, maybe one set of meetings on Friday night, that the team basically comes up and says, hey, here's your golden ticket. We're going to sign you. There's a handful of guys around the league that get that chance, and Justice Tavai out of San Diego State turned the Patriots' eye enough that he is on the roster now.
And if there is one thing we know about the Patriots, it's they're going to give people a chance. You know, the roster churn there is always crazy. It's definitely a meritocracy. Like, you will earn your keep in New England. Yeah. And if he's going to get a real shot anywhere, it's going to be there because they love giving not just small school kids, but not that San Diego State's like a super small program.
Say,
but unheralded prospects. They love giving them real shots.
Yeah,
because everybody has a chance there. So, good story there. That brings us to our final couple segments. We got the report card and then ceiling and floor in wins. Report card, if you're not familiar with this segment, we're basically grading the progression of 4 categories from the end of last season until now. It's front office, coaching staff, offensive talent, defensive talent. Where are we now relative to 8 months ago, I guess, or whatever the timeline is? Front office, we're going to go with neutral because mainly it hasn't changed in like 2 decades. And again, not negative, not positive, neutral. There wasn't a whole lot of major roster churn, in free agency. They mostly relied on the draft, which we can't really grade yet, so it's not fair to go up or down based on a draft for all these kids that haven't played yet. So we'll go neutral there. Coaching staff, I mean, swapping out Patricia for O'Brien, has there been any coordinator spot around the league that is a larger upgrade than that? Probably not. Like maybe, Lombardi to Kellen is close, but like I still think the gap from Patricia to O'Brien is bigger. It's a massive up here just for that alone. Offensive talent, it's mostly the same, but when you add in Gesicki, I guess if you're swapping Myers for Juju, it's not like that big of a difference, even though I prefer Myers. But you also are adding in Reef. You're adding in some of the rookies that we really like. Ideally, we're getting actual contribution from Pierre Strong, meaning him actually getting snaps this year. I would say it's fair to consider the slightest of up arrows here for offensive talent, but I don't want to oversell it. It's not like we're taking a huge leap, but it is a leap.
It is ever so slightly, and just to be fair, we don't combine the coaching with it. Obviously, Bill O'Brien coming back is going to have a large effect on these players, but really just looking at the roster itself, I really like the add of Gesicki. We already talked about that in combination with O'Brien. In this category, it's just the add itself. Juju, solid player, but again, replaces a solid player. So this is like the needle's barely flickering, but it's flickering up.
Defense, this one's more pronounced. They were already great, but adding in Christian Gonzalez into this, adding in the raw materials of Keon White, adding in Marte Mapu when he gets fully healthy again, in addition to everything they already had on this unit, like they were already nightmarish to play against. It's so much worse now. Like the battle between this defense and Miami's offense, the Jets offense, the Bills offense twice a year, each time, that individual unit versus unit battle is biblical. That is awesome. Like that is must-see TV to me. So even if you're not a Patriots fan and you happen to still be watching this episode, please watch those division games in the AFC East, because just this defense against those offenses by itself is worth the price of admission. And they were already so damn good, and now they're even better.
Belichick is a tremendous game planner, one of the best ever. Is doing less of that, is handing off more both to his one son, both sons. Like you said, Mayo's being groomed to eventually, probably, we think, maybe take over as DC. So it may be a little bit less day-to-day, but we even saw it at Shrine Bowl because the Patriots staff was the coaching staff for the Shrine Bowl. We saw Belichick. He didn't coach a ton. He definitely let his assistants do it, but he can't help it. He is an inveterate football coach. And there were certain things that just either got his ire up or he just couldn't help but go over and go, no, come here. No,
yeah,
this elbow goes here.
He was grabbing DTR a lot. I was convinced they were going to take DTR, and they probably would have if they didn't get snaked by Cleveland, but he took a keen interest
and he
in
ends up with
coaching
Malik
them.
Cunningham, which is a very poor man's DTR, but the ability for Bill Belichick to game plan, especially against the teams he knows he's going to see twice a year, that he's seen, every year for the last 25 years. He always has something in the bag for them, and they never really seem to get on top of the Patriots scheme-wise. Talent-wise, they've absolutely been overwhelmed. Coaching-wise on offense, last year they got absolutely swamped. On defense, they just don't get run.
They refuse to die.
Yeah.
That's the big thing, is even if they start out slow, by October, like by Halloween, they're always a threshing machine every single year. Maybe not on offense anymore. It used to be on offense and on defense. Now it's just on defense. But God, halfway through the year, they're always just a pain in the ass to play against. Because at that point, they figured out what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
And once they're done with their little 6-week self-scouting in the beginning of the season, when they're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we can't call quarters. We're not going to get away with that. Let's just never call quarters again and call cover one only.
because that's what we're good at, and we know we can do it. So, must-see TV, I would agree. AFC East battles against the Patriots. It's, largely other AFC East offenses versus Patriots defense. Always worth the watch.
All right, ceiling and floor. We've danced around it too much now. As much as we've talked them up, and as much as we've acknowledged by EPA last year, even with everything that went wrong, they were a top 10 team. I still can't bring myself to put their ceiling higher than 10 wins. And it's not necessarily because I don't believe in them, but again, it's an acknowledgement that every single AFC East team is going to rip off 3 losses from them, just like they're going to rip off wins against those guys. So there's 3 losses right there because they're probably going to split. They're playing against the NFC East. Like, they're literally opening against the Eagles. Good God. And then they got the Dolphins after that, and then the Jets, and then the Cowboys. Then they're playing against a tough Saints defense. It's over and over and over. Like, they're playing against Washington in the middle of the season. Like, that's not a break. That's not a vacation going up against that defensive line. Anthony Richardson by November is probably going to be full speed at that point, and it's a very talented Colts team. They're playing against the Steelers and the Chargers and the Chiefs, and it just goes on and on and on. It's a murderer's row of a schedule. So just getting double-digit wins is an accomplishment. I think Patriots fans will be ecstatic if they got to 10 because that means they survived this year and maybe made a run at the 6 seed. I don't think that they I don't think that they win less than 8, so my floor is 8. But getting anything higher than 10 just seems like an impossible task.
It is going to be a steep climb if they do. Floor, I'll match you at 8. I just don't think Belichick allows them to go below that. I'm going to go for 11. And it is, again, ceiling is if everything goes right. And I think Bill O'Brien can get the offense up to speed very quickly. Again, there weren't defensive losses. If anything, they were just defensive gains in terms of personnel. So they're going to be starting very quickly, sort of already on page 15 of the book. They could be shutting people down early in the season. They're still going to do that 4 or 5 week self-scouting period. They do that every year, but they could be very good quickly. They're going to have to be against that schedule. It's a buzzsaw in the first 5 weeks. But if everything goes correctly, I could see 11 wins on this team. It's still 6 losses, right? Things would have to break the right way, and that would be an excellent season. They would absolutely be in the playoffs with that mark, and a team that, again, nobody wants to play late in the year. So I could see, under ideal conditions, Mac has a real rebound. Maybe Juju Smith-Schuster meshes and says, oh, this is the role I've been looking for. Ramondre's Ramondre and stays healthy. Like, it's very possible. This is a very talented team. The defense just continues to be good. There's no reason to think they won't. And the offense gets good quickly. I could see 11, but that's best case scenario.
They got to hit a lot of green lights in a row.
100%.
Like, literally all the green lights in a row.
Yeah.
But it's technically possible.
Yeah.
Overall, I think we've conveyed the message properly. We like this team. We acknowledge the reality of their schedule, but we like this team. We think they're going in the right direction. We think if they have another good draft coming up here in 2024 and just kind of keep infusing this roster with offensive talent around Mac, they have real potential to make a run here in a year or 2. Maybe not this year, but they're close. And they're closer than people think.
Yeah, if they go out and get a wide receiver in next year's draft that is the version of Zay Flowers that they didn't get this year, that's going to add something. They don't really have that right now, and we talk about it for growth for young quarterbacks, how important it is. In terms of everybody uses Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts in their 3rd year. Well, this is Mac's 3rd year. He doesn't have that player, but if he gets him in the 4th year, it's going to make the same level bump for him. So again, one more run, one more bite at the apple offensively. If they're building off what is a double-digit win year, whether it's 10 or 11 wins, maybe even 12 if they get lucky, fine. Like, that could be a place where you add a couple more pieces on offense. You know which ones you really want to keep. You're always going to have a solid offensive line. Your defense is rock solid. They're just going to make some noise.
If you want to come back for the rest of the AFC East, we got Dolphins tomorrow, and they are their roster is all the way there. Yeah. Like their roster is where we need the Patriots to be in a year or two. But Miami's there. They're ready to go. Then we got the Bills the day after that, and then we are picking a division winner on Friday, and then we are done with this series, and we're going to be well into preseason at that point. So if you're a Patriots fan and you enjoyed this, make sure to come back for the rest of this week so you can get a good look at your division opponents. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Make sure to go to Homage, by the way, to check out our clothing partner. They have an NFL license, so they have designs for every single team, like 30-something designs for every single team. They're all awesome. The materials are unbelievably soft and comfortable, and any purchase you make directly benefits the show. So you don't even have to buy bootleg merch. Just buy merch that supports your favorite team and also support us at the same time.
Yeah, use the link in the description. We get a cut of all those proceeds. If we keep our sponsors happy, they keep us happy. We keep you happy because we make more content.
Make sure to come back tomorrow, same time, same place, to look at the Dolphins. And until then, cheers.